Hey guys, this is Neverending Reader and I'm Brittany and welcome to my May book haul. So I know I was on a book buying ban, but like things happened and now I'm not. Basically, I went downtown with my husband and we were just walking around and I found a lady selling books out of the trunk of her car, and so I was like, I'm gonna take a peek at these, and they were all kind of like new releases and they were $1, and so I was just like, you know what, fuck the book buying ban, I'm about to go crazy. So everything I've bought since then has either been $1, 25 cents, or 10 cents, so I'm not really complaining and my wallet's not complaining, so you shouldn't be either. The first book that I picked up was Swing Time by Zadie Smith. I don't really know much about it, but I saw that it was a book of the month, and I used to subscribe to book of the month, but it honestly ended up being like kind of not working out for me, so I unsubscribed. But this looks like a pretty diverse read. So it says, two brown girls dream of being dancers, but only one, Tracy, has talent. The other has ideas about rhythm and time, about black bodies and black music, what constitutes a tribe or makes a person truly free. It's a close but complicated childhood friendship that ends abruptly in their early 20s, never to be revisited, but never quite forgotten either. So I'm assuming this will be pretty interesting, and I'm always looking for a diverse read. I also picked up The Dry by Jane Harper. I saw that this was going around BookTube for a while, and I thought that it was part of a series, but now I'm not so sure. It is definitely about a detective, I think. It says Agent Falk, and he like moved out of his hometown, and he recently found out that his best friend and his best friend's entire family were murdered, and he like wasn't planning on going to the funeral, but he got a note that said, Luke lied, you lied, be at the funeral. So I'm assuming this is a pretty good like thriller. I don't technically really like to do detective type thrillers, but I have high hopes for this, so hopefully it's pretty good. I also found Spindle by E.K. Johnston at a garage sale. This was one that I got for 25 cents. It looks like it's a YA, and I think it's about like a queen who basically like saved her kingdom from like demons and like sent them off to like some demon prison, but now they're like coming back or something like that. Spindle makes me think that it's like a retelling of a Disney show, but I'm not super sure. Either way, y'all know I like fantasy. I like quick fantasies like this, so I'm very excited for this one. I also picked up Tall Toes for 25 cents at the garage sale by Anne Rice. I actually have a copy of this, but this one's big and floppy, and you guys know that I like a big and floppy paperback, so I just got it. Not much to say about it. It is what it is. I also picked up An American Marriage by Tayra Jones. I hope I'm saying that right, but I think this is about like a husband and wife who are married, and like the husband goes to prison and the wife is like, he definitely didn't commit this crime, so like it's injustice or something, and I think it's probably just about them and like, I don't know, a fictional contemporary. So I know that I saw that this was popular for a while, so I'd like to give it a go. I also picked up The Paris Wife by Paula McLean. I think this is about Ernest Hemingway's wife. Honestly, I picked it up because it was set in Chicago in 1920, so like 1920s are definitely my jam, and I need to read more historical fiction from that era, and I actually live near Chicago, so that like really caught my eye, so hopefully getting to this one soon. I love historical fiction. I also picked up Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate. I remember this was one of the Goodreads awards. Like, I think that it was a runner-up for historical fiction. It might have even won, but it is set in Memphis 1940, and I believe it is about like a group of kids, siblings, who are taken away from their parents and put into foster homes, and I don't know much else from there, but I heard really good things about it, so I'm pretty pumped about it. Next thing I grabbed was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. So the front of this cover, or the inside of the cover, says, a beautiful and distinguished family, a private island, a brilliant damaged girl, a passionate political boy, a group of 4 friends, the Liars, whose friendship turns destructive. A revolution, an accident, a secret, lies upon lies, true love, the truth. And that's like all it says in here. So I think this is like a cute little, maybe not cute, but it's a little thriller and it's pretty short. So maybe this will be a good readathon book in the future. I also picked up Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. I don't think I've read anything by either of these authors, but I have some Neil Gaiman on my shelf and I really need to get to it. So this is a mass market paperback, which I hate, but if it's a good story, then I'll buy like a really nice copy of it. But I think this is like maybe a comedy about like the apocalypse. So that sounds cool to me. I also picked up The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane. This is by Lisa C. I picked this one up because it's another diverse read. It says it's in the remote Chinese mountain village, Li Yan and her family align their lives around the seasons and the farming of tea. And for the ahhh people, life goes on as it has for generations until a stranger appears at the village gate in a Jeep, the first automobile any of the villagers have ever seen. So I'm assuming it like takes off from there and maybe like their culture or customs are kind of questioned, and I don't know, it sounds pretty good for me, and so I'm going to read it. I also picked up Educated by Tara Westover. I actually read this a few months ago, I think. Whenever the last time I literally used my library, I read this. So I actually picked it up because my husband wanted to read it, and it is a memoir, nonfiction, about a woman whose family was absolutely fucked up. And I ended up not rating this because I don't like to rate nonfiction or memoirs specifically, but it was really good in the beginning, but like kind of towards the end it dragged. I ended up just buying it because my husband wanted to read it, which is why I got it from the library in the first place, and now maybe someday in 20 years he can read it. But he's not very much of a reader, so I guess we'll see. I also picked up The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. This is another mass market paperback, which is not my thing, but I actually read this a few years ago. I remember Reagan on BookTube was raving about this, and basically it's about it's a high fantasy with like a killer magical system that you really have to get used to, but it was really good. I just never continued on with the series, so now I have the first one. I'd like to reread it and hopefully get the second one after I do that. I also picked up America's First Daughter, and I believe this is about Thomas Jefferson's daughter, which is absolutely the only thing I need to know about anything. I really love historical fiction, and I've been really getting into historical American fiction because I don't really know like a whole lot about my own fucking country, which is like so sad, but I don't know if I just didn't pay attention well in school or if my teachers were just shit, but I'm trying to reteach myself, but in like a fun way, so I thought this would be informative for me. I also picked up the graphic novel Naruto Volume 1. I don't know what this is about, but I really want to get back into graphic novels. I think this is manga because it's like you read it backwards maybe. I don't know. You guys will have to tell me because I don't know how to read these, but I love graphic novels and they're just like so expensive, so I don't really buy them. Actually, I don't buy many books unless they're like severely discounted, so when I saw this for like 10 cents, I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. I also grabbed The Perfect Nanny by Lila Silmani. This is a thriller, so I don't really want to read the back, but I think it's about like a nanny who comes into this like family and maybe like some weird shit goes on to where she's like not as perfect as she seems. I'm not really sure. I don't want to know, so I'm not going to read the back of the book, but yeah, pick that up. I was also sent 2 books by Sophie. I will link her channel down below. They were my graduation gift, and I am eternally grateful for her. I love her so much. Thank you, Sophie. But the first one was The Bride Test, which I read and absolutely loved. Sophie knows that I don't think that I like romance, but every time she makes me read a romance, I really like it. And this one is kind of in the same like category as The Kiss Quotient, which was the first book, and I loved it even more than The Kiss Quotient, so this is like one of my favorite books of all time, so thank you, Sophie. She also picked me up The Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing, and we're actually buddy reading it next month, well, June. It's like in a couple days, but spoiler alert for my TBR. This is another thriller. I don't like to know anything about thrillers, so I guess you guys will find out in my June wrap-up what this is about. But I'm super excited, and I just love buddy reading with people, especially Sophie. We are buddy reading Gemina now by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and it is such a blast. I also picked up Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. So I've read a few John Green books in my life, and I absolutely fucking hated them until I read Turtles All the Way Down. And I read this like a few years ago, like whenever it came out. I know that I was the first person in line at the library to get it, and I read it. And I was just shocked because I've never seen my own personal anxiety and panic like portrayed so well in a book. Like, this is literally, it made me want to cry because it was like, it felt like somebody else goes through the pain and bullshit that I go through every day. So like, I don't know, just this was amazing, and I'd like to reread it someday when I'm like more mentally stable. I've been dealing with some like really shitty anxiety lately, so I don't want to read it now. But yeah, this book really is very important to me, so I bought myself a copy. I also picked up The Oracle Year by Charles Soule. I didn't realize until like a few minutes ago that this is an ARC, which kind of pissed me off because it's the one book that I actually bought at a bookstore. It was still $1, but it was like kind of like a half-price books kind of bookstore, but it was in the clearance section, apparently because it's an ARC. But you would think that like stores like that would know better. And when I like buy books, I'm not going to check and make sure that it's like not an ARC. They all look the same to me. But anyways, The Oracle Year, it looks like it's about a man who like wakes up from a dream and has a bunch of 108 predictions about the future, and they're like now calling him the Oracle. I also picked up The Merciless by Danielle Vega. This was one of the 10-cent books that I found at a thrift store, but it doesn't literally say one thing on the inside of the cover or the back. Like, the back says, "Forgive us, Father, for we have sinned." But I remember adding this to my Goodreads TBR and like really being intrigued by whatever the synopsis was, but now I don't know, so I picked that up. I also grabbed The Lying Game by Ruth Ware. I don't know what this is about. Again, it is a thriller. I don't like knowing synopsises of thrillers, but I have read a few Ruth Ware, I believe, maybe 2, and I really liked both of them, so I have high hopes for this one. I also picked up The Proposal by Jasmine Guillory. It looks like this is just like a cutesy adult romance. I think a girl like goes to a Dodgers game and her boyfriend like proposes to her, but like they haven't been dating long, and he's like maybe kind of an asshole, and like all the stadium fans are disappointed that she says no, and I think like a man like escorts her out of there, and they probably fall in love. But I really want to get back into reading adult romances after reading anything by Helen Huang, so me and Sophie are going to be budding reading this in June, and I'm super hype. And the last book that I picked up was Sing Unburied Sing by Jasmine Ward. I remember seeing this one like a shit ton of awards, and so I was like, I'll give it a go, you know. Usually if they're like pretty popular, I actually do have like the same opinions as everybody else. I think the most shocking thing that I ever hated and everybody loved was The Cruel Prince, and maybe it was just because I got spoiled on Twitter for it. So I kind of trust like high ratings, and this one definitely has high ratings. I believe this is like a family road trip story, and I'm sure there's like emotional trauma and stress and like family issues. It also says it's part ghost story, which is really intriguing to me, so I'm very excited for this. So that is it for the book haul that was never supposed to happen. I guess I am off my book buying ban. If you've watched this far, thank you for being here. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.